Everyone in Hillcrest Academy knew about that girl, the one whose hair flowed like silk all the way to the floor. But they didn't talk about her because of how beautiful she was. They talked about her because of what they did to her, right here, in this hallway, when one jealous queen stepped on her crown. The bell rang across Hillcrest Academy, echoing through its gleaming marble hallways like a declaration of status. Luxury cars lined the front driveway, students in designer sneakers and Letterman jackets swarming through the gates like they owned the air itself. They laughed too loud, carried themselves too tall, every inch of the school screaming money. Then, through that sea of glitter and noise, Aaliyah Brooks walked in, quiet, soft-footed, and unbothered by the fact that her backpack was secondhand and her shoes had seen better days. What made her impossible to ignore wasn't her clothes. It was her hair. Jet black, silken, impossibly long. It flowed like water all the way down to her ankles. When it wasn't tied up, it brushed against the floor, a shimmering river of curls that caught sunlight and turned heads. And on that first morning of senior year, it did exactly that. Conversations paused mid-sentence. Phones came up. Some whispered in admiration, others in disbelief. "Is that real?" A girl murmured near the lockers. "Bro, it's got to be extensions," another boy whispered, his eyes wide. But Aaliyah kept walking, eyes low, pretending not to hear. She'd learned that when people didn't understand you, silence was your shield. Her best friend, Maya, jogged up beside her, nearly tripping over her own feet. "Girl, I told you to tie it up today. You're making these rich kids lose their minds." Aaliyah chuckled softly. "I tried. The bun wouldn't stay. I guess it wanted to make an entrance." "An entrance? More like a red carpet," Maya said, rolling her eyes, though the pride in her voice was clear. They headed toward their homeroom, the smell of expensive perfume and cafeteria coffee mixing in the air. But as they passed a group of senior girls, tall, styled, dressed like runway models, the laughter suddenly stopped. One of them turned slowly, her manicured nails glittering under the fluorescent light. Chloe Van Doren, blonde, statuesque, born into the kind of wealth that made teachers nervous around her. She was Hillcrest's self-proclaimed queen, homecoming royalty 2 years in a row, captain of the cheer squad, and heiress to the Van Doren real estate empire. Every hallway felt like her throne room. She leaned against her locker, eyes scanning Aaliyah from head to toe. That perfect smile, sharp as glass, crept across her face. "Well, would you look at that?" Chloe said, voice dripping honey and venom. "It's Rapunzel from the Bronx." Her friends snickered, trying not to choke on their laughter. Aaliyah froze for half a second. Maya stepped closer, her tone firm. "She's from Decatur, actually, and she's got more class than all of you put together." Chloe's blue eyes flicked to Maya like she'd just stepped on something unpleasant. "I wasn't talking to you, sweetheart. I was just appreciating the effort. That's a lot of hair for one girl to carry." Aaliyah forced a small smile, the kind that hides hurt behind dignity. "It's just hair." Chloe tilted her head. Maybe. But around here, people don't just notice what you have. They judge how you wear it." The bell rang again, cutting through the moment. Students scattered, the hallway breaking apart into chaos. Aaliyah exhaled, her heart pounding as she and Maya walked away. "Don't let her get to you," Maya whispered. "Chloe's just jealous. You know how insecure queens get when someone walks in with a real crown." Aaliyah didn't respond. She could feel eyes still on her, whispers trailing like smoke. She'd always known she was different, but at Hillcrest, difference wasn't celebrated. It was tested. Later that day in the cafeteria, Aaliyah sat with Maya near the back, close to the window that overlooked the city skyline. The cafeteria buzzed with chatter, laughter, gossip, a world she was still learning how to survive in. Across the room, Chloe and her friends sat at the royal table, golden trays, fancy water bottles, the works. Chloe's gaze found Aaliyah again. That same smirk returned as if she were plotting something unspoken. "Hey, Laya," Maya said, breaking her friend's trance. "You ever wish you could just blend in?" Aaliyah took a slow sip of her juice box, watching the reflection of her long curls in the glass. "Sometimes," she said softly, "but I guess God didn't make me to blend in." From the other side of the cafeteria, Chloe's laugh rang out again, loud, deliberate, like a warning. She stood, tossed her golden hair over her shoulder, and walked past Aaliyah's table. For a fleeting second, their eyes met, confidence versus quiet grace, arrogance versus humility. Then Chloe stopped, leaned slightly, and whispered with a cold, playful grin, "Let's see how long that crown stays shiny." She walked away, heels clicking, leaving a silence that felt heavier than words. And just like that, the war neither of them saw coming had already begun. By the third week of the semester, the whispering had turned into full-blown gossip. Every time Aaliyah Brooks walked through the hallways of Hillcrest Academy, the sound of her long, flowing hair brushing the polished floors seemed to follow her like an echo. Some admired it. Most mocked it. She thinks she's special. Does she even wash it? It's just weird. But the cruelest words came with laughter, and that laughter always belonged to Chloe Van Doren and her entourage, Savannah, Madison, and Lily, the kind of girls who thought cruelty was a sport. Aaliyah tried to keep her head down. She focused on her grades, sat at the back of class, and avoided attention. But no matter how hard she tried, her hair, her identity, made her impossible to ignore. Maya stayed by her side like a bodyguard with a sense of humor. "Don't worry about them, girl. Karma's got better aim than me with a dodgeball." Aaliyah smiled weakly, though deep down she felt it, that growing heaviness in her chest. It wasn't just about her hair. It was about belonging. Every corner of Hillcrest reminded her she didn't quite fit into the designer world around her. Then came that Friday morning, the day Chloe decided to teach Aaliyah a lesson. The plan was simple, cruel, and calculated. Between third and fourth period, the hallways would be crowded. Phones would be out. Laughter would spread like wildfire. Chloe's clique had already rehearsed it. Savannah would walk ahead and distract Aaliyah with small talk. Madison would accidentally spill her drink nearby to make her stop walking. And Chloe, the queen of the show, would deliver the final blow. When the bell rang, the stage was set. Aaliyah walked down the main corridor, a soft rhythm in her steps, earbuds in, trying to tune out the chaos around her. Her hair, neatly brushed that morning, swayed behind her like silk ribbons. Savannah appeared first, flashing her perfect smile. "Hey, Aaliyah, you dropped this," she said, pretending to bend down with a folded note. Aaliyah frowned slightly and pulled one earbud out. "I didn't drop anything." Before she could react, Madison bumped her shoulder. "Oops," and splashed a bit of iced coffee onto the floor right in front of her. The brown liquid spread near her feet, forcing her to pause. "Oh, I'm so sorry," Madison said in a voice that dripped with fake guilt. And that's when it happened. From behind, Chloe strutted forward with that familiar smirk. For a second, everything slowed. The sound of laughter, the echo of footsteps, the feeling of being watched. Then Chloe tripped. Her heel landed squarely on Aaliyah's trailing hair. The force was so sudden, so sharp, that Aaliyah jerked backward and fell hard onto the polished floor. Her books scattered, her hands hit the ground, and a gasp rippled through the hallway. The laughter started almost instantly. "Oh my God, did you see that?" Her hair, Chloe stepped on it. "Someone record this." Phones were up, dozens of them. Chloe covered her mouth with fake shock. "Oh no, Aaliyah. I didn't see your hair. It's everywhere." Her friends laughed behind her, high-pitched and cruel. Savannah whispered loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe she should sweep the floors with it since it's so long." Aaliyah's chest tightened. She could feel the heat in her face, the sting in her eyes. Her palms trembled as she reached to gather her books. Her hair tangled beneath Chloe's shoe. "Move your foot," she whispered, voice trembling. Chloe didn't move. "What was that?" "Sorry, it's kind of hard to hear when people are under me." The hallway exploded in laughter again. Aaliyah's vision blurred. She yanked her hair free, a few strands tearing painfully from her scalp. She stumbled to her feet, shaking, surrounded by a sea of smirking faces. And then she saw Principal Henderson standing at the far end of the hall, watching, arms crossed, doing nothing. Chloe noticed him too, and smiled sweetly. "Sorry, sir. Total accident." The principal's jaw clenched. He hesitated, then turned and walked away. That was the moment Aaliyah realized, at Hillcrest, justice had a price tag. She ran. Through the hallway. Past the laughter. Past the phones. Past the pitying glances. She didn't stop until she reached the girls' bathroom, locked herself in a stall, and pressed her back against the cold wall. Tears poured down her face as she stared at the mirror through the gap in the door. Her reflection looked small, broken, and humiliated. That night, back home in her small apartment, she sat in front of her bedroom mirror. Her eyes were swollen. Her hair, a crown, lay heavy over her shoulders. She picked up a pair of scissors with shaking hands. "I just want to be normal," she whispered. And as the first lock fell to the floor, she felt a piece of herself go with it. She cried until she couldn't anymore, unaware that this pain, this breaking point, was quietly shaping the fire that would one day turn her into something unstoppable. It had been 3 weeks since that day in the hallway. 3 weeks since the laughter, the humiliation, and the scissors. Aaliyah's once floor-length hair now barely reached her shoulders. The cut wasn't clean, and the uneven ends reminded her daily of what she'd lost. Not just the hair, but the confidence that came with it. She'd stopped talking much in class, stopped sitting with Maya at lunch, stopped looking in mirrors altogether. But life had a strange way of planting seeds in the soil of pain. One Saturday morning, Maya dragged her to the Peachtree Community Center in downtown Atlanta, where they sometimes volunteered for weekend programs, mostly helping little girls from local schools with reading and self-esteem workshops. "Come on," Maya urged, grabbing her arm. "You can't keep hiding. You promised Coach Ramirez you'd help today." Aaliyah sighed, zipping up her old gray hoodie. "I don't feel like being around people, Maya." "Then be around mirrors," Maya shot back. "Because that's all you've been facing lately, your past. You need to move." Reluctantly, Aaliyah followed. The community center was alive with chatter. Girls between 8 and 12 sat in small groups braiding each other's hair, painting nails, and giggling over music playing from a speaker. The walls were painted bright orange with words like confidence, pride, and dream in bold letters. Coach Ramirez, the school's PE teacher and part-time volunteer, spotted Aaliyah from across the room. "There she is," he said warmly, clapping his hands. "The quiet storm herself. I was starting to think you forgot about us." Aaliyah smiled faintly. "Never, Coach. Just been busy." "Busy healing, I hope," he said knowingly, eyes kind. As the day went on, Aaliyah found herself kneeling beside a young girl named Talia, who was struggling to detangle her curls. "It's too hard," Talia pouted, pulling at her hair with frustration. "Everyone says my hair's ugly." Something in Aaliyah's chest shifted. She took the comb gently from the girl's hand. "Your hair isn't ugly, baby. It's magic. You just have to be patient with it." Talia looked up, curious. "Was yours this long, too?" Aaliyah froze, then smiled softly. "It used to be. But even when it's not, it's still mine. And it's still beautiful." The girl grinned. "You sound like a princess." That made Aaliyah laugh for the first time in weeks. Later that afternoon, as they cleaned up, Aaliyah overheard a conversation between 2 staff members at the front desk. "Did you hear about the State Beauty and Cultural Talent Competition next month?" one of them said. "They're looking for contestants from local schools. It's all about celebrating diversity, natural beauty, and personal stories. First prize gets a modeling contract and scholarship." Aaliyah's ears perked up, but she pretended not to listen. Coach Ramirez must have noticed, because he walked over and said quietly, "You should enter, Brooks." Aaliyah's eyes widened. "What? No way. That's not for me." "Why not?" he asked. "You've got more grace in your pinky finger than most people do in their whole bodies. You've got a story the world needs to hear." She shook her head. "Coach, I got laughed out of a hallway for having hair that touched the floor. What makes you think I can walk a stage without them laughing again?" He smiled. "Because now you've got something they don't. You've got fire." Maya, who had been listening from behind, jumped in. "He's right. You can't let them write your story, girl. You've got to rewrite it yourself." That night, Aaliyah lay awake staring at the ceiling. the echo of their words circling in her mind. She imagined herself walking across a stage, not as the girl everyone mocked, but as the woman who rose above it. The next morning, she pulled her old hair care basket from under her bed. Combs, oils, conditioners, satin wraps. Dust clung to everything. She ran her fingers through her shortened hair, feeling both the pain of what she'd lost and the possibility of what could grow again. For weeks, she trained with Coach Ramirez and Maya after school. They practiced her posture, her walk, her confidence. Maya made her rehearse in front of mirrors until Aaliyah could look at her reflection without flinching. It wasn't easy. Some days, she wanted to quit. Some days, she cried in silence, remembering that cruel hallway. But every time she looked at Talia and those other little girls at the community center, she reminded herself, asterisk, they're watching me. If I give up, they'll think they have to too, asterisk. By the end of the month, her hair had started to regain its luster. She wore it in a natural, full-bodied style, soft curls cascading down her back like a rebirth. As she stood in front of her mirror one evening, dressed in a simple white blouse, she smiled, not because she thought she was perfect, but because she no longer cared who thought she wasn't. Maya peeked into her room. You ready? Aaliyah took a deep breath. Her reflection stared back, strong, calm, radiant. Yeah, she said with a quiet conviction. If they're going to stare, let them. And just like that, the girl who once hid from mirrors started walking toward the spotlight that had always been waiting for her. The ballroom of the Grand Regency Hotel pulsed, with glamour and nerves. Glittering chandeliers bathed the crowd in warm gold as contestants moved like shimmering butterflies between mirrors, makeup tables, and photographers. The hum of voices and the click of cameras filled the air. Aaliyah stood at the edge of the room, her palms slick with sweat. For the first time in years, her hair flowed freely, dark, thick, and unapologetically long, cascading past her waist like a living waterfall. It was her statement, her rebirth, her defiance against every whispered insult that had ever followed her. Girl, Maya whispered, adjusting the strap on Aaliyah's silver gown. You're literally glowing. They ain't ready. Coach Ramirez smiled proudly from the sidelines. Remember what we practiced. Shoulders up, eyes forward. Own every step like it's a statement. Aaliyah nodded. I'm ready. But then, a familiar laugh sliced through the backstage chatter. Chloe. She was radiant in a golden dress that screamed money and confidence. Her entourage trailed behind her like a royal court. She stopped mid-stride when she saw Aaliyah. The same old smirk curled her lips. Well, look who's trying to play dress up, Chloe said. Her tone dipped in poison. Didn't think you'd have the nerve to show your face here. Aaliyah met her gaze. Guess I surprised you. Chloe's eyes flicked to Aaliyah's hair. Oh, please. You really think they're going to crown that? You look like you're auditioning for a shampoo commercial, not a pageant. Aaliyah smiled faintly. Maybe that's exactly what they'll remember. The announcer's voice echoed through the hall. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The State Beauty and Cultural Talent Competition begins in 5 minutes. Backstage buzzed with last-minute chaos. Dresses shimmered, perfume filled the air, and hearts raced. Aaliyah paced quietly, repeating her mantra under her breath. You belong here. You deserve this. Then came the whisper of silk behind her, a faint tearing sound. She turned just in time to see Chloe step back, her hand tugging at Aaliyah's gown hem. Oops, Chloe said innocently. Be careful, sweetheart. Wouldn't want to trip. But before Aaliyah could speak, Maya appeared like lightning, eyes blazing. Touch her again, and I'll make sure every judge here knows what kind of dirty tricks you play. Chloe scowled and stormed off. Moments later, Aaliyah walked onto the stage. The lights hit her full force, bright, hot, unrelenting. For a split second, fear clawed at her chest. Then she saw the audience. They weren't laughing. They were staring, mesmerized. Her natural hair shimmered like black silk under the spotlights. Every movement of her head was poetry. Every step of her walk was grace reborn. Judges whispered among themselves. Cameras clicked rapidly. Someone in the audience gasped softly. When it came time for her talent performance, Aaliyah stepped forward and delivered a spoken word piece titled, "Crowned by My Roots." Her voice trembled at first, but then it grew strong, fierce, melodic, unstoppable. She spoke about shame, identity, and reclaiming the beauty that was once ridiculed. By the time she finished, the ballroom was silent, the kind of silence that carries awe. Then applause thundered. When the final results were announced, Chloe's smile froze as the host called out, "And the winner of this year's State Beauty and Cultural Talent Competition is Aaliyah Brooks." The room exploded in cheers. Confetti rained down as Aaliyah's tears blurred the flashing lights. Maya hugged her tightly. Coach Ramirez pumped a proud fist into the air. Across the stage, Chloe turned sharply, her crowned dream shattered. Cameras caught her retreating, her image fading while Aaliyah stood tall, radiant in her victory. Aaliyah smiled through her tears, whispering to herself, "They can stare all they want. This time, it's because they see me." A year later, the skyline of Atlanta gleamed brighter than ever, and so did Aaliyah's life. Billboards, glossy magazine covers, and digital ads across Times Square all carried one name, Aaliyah Brooks. Her face, confident, fierce, unfiltered, was everywhere. Her natural hair flowed, like an emblem of resilience, styled in breathtaking waves for global campaigns. Brands that once would have overlooked her were now racing to collaborate. She stood backstage at a press conference hall in New York City, the air humming with anticipation. On the podium, a large banner read, "Official Guinness World Record Presentation, the longest natural hair on a teen." Aaliyah smoothed the sleek edges of her silver jumpsuit, the fabric catching the light. Her heart pounded, not from nerves, but disbelief. This was real. Coach Ramirez squeezed her shoulder proudly. From the girl who once hid her hair to the one inspiring a generation. "You earned every inch of this, Meja." Maya beamed beside him, phone in hand, live-streaming the moment. "The internet's already losing its mind. You're trending worldwide again." Aaliyah laughed softly, shaking her head. "It still feels unreal." When her name was called, she stepped onto the stage to a roar of applause. The Guinness World Records official stood with a clipboard and a ceremonial certificate. Cameras flashed. "Ladies and gentlemen," the host announced, "today we honor a young woman who turned her pain into power, her ridicule into recognition. With a natural hair length of 7 feet, 4 inches, we present Aaliyah Brooks, the official record holder for the longest natural hair on a teen." The audience rose to their feet. Aaliyah smiled wide, her eyes glistening. She lifted the certificate high, tears streaming freely as she said into the microphone, "This record isn't just mine. It's for every kid who ever felt too different to belong. The thing they mocked might just be your magic." The applause swelled, long, loud, and full of emotion. Meanwhile, across town, at a small suburban salon, a familiar figure was sweeping the floor. Chloe. Her gold-streaked hair was shorter now, tied up in a bun. The sparkle in her eyes had dimmed, replaced with quiet reflection. The TV in the corner of the salon played the live broadcast of Aaliyah's ceremony. As she looked up, she froze. On the screen, Aaliyah's radiant smile filled the frame, confident, unbothered, unstoppable. Chloe exhaled, setting down the broom. A faint smile tugged at her lips, not bitter this time, but almost wistful. She turned toward the large window beside her, where a highway billboard loomed in the distance. There it was again, Aaliyah's face, towering over the city. Her hair rippled majestically in the wind, a tagline beneath it reading, "Be your own standard." The reflection of that billboard shimmered faintly across Chloe's eyes. For a long moment, she just stared, then whispered to herself, "Yes, she really did it." Outside, traffic hummed. Aaliyah's billboard seemed to glow brighter under the setting sun, a crown carved in light. And somewhere in the heart of the city, Aaliyah stood at a window of her high-rise apartment, watching the same sky, smiling softly to herself. "I didn't just grow my hair," she whispered. "I grew beyond their limits."